Hey retro fans, welcome to another episode of Retro Gaming Memories. In this episode I'm going to talk about something that I never really thought I'd be talking about, which sounds terribly ominous, but it's not. It's kind of related to my fairly recent purchases of the SNES Classic and the NES Mini Classic and the C64 Mini and these kind of things. So what it is basically, I never thought I'd see the day where I was essentially buying emulators in fancy cases. Because I've been through the whole emulation thing. You know, before I was lucky enough to have a games room and didn't have the space, I used to emulate everything on my PC, and it was fantastic. It was a great way to play, but it never gave me the kind of proper experience that I wanted. You know, playing MAME or whatever with a keyboard as I did back when I first started. Gradually moved on to gamepads and then arcade sticks and stuff, which was fine, and it was good enough, but it was never the same experience that I kind of was hankering after. So the fact that I've bought these kind of emulation machines in the NES and the SNES Mini and the C64 is kind of a bit bonkers, but I've got this weird thing. Excuse me. I've got this weird thing where the NES and the SNES Mini, I never really had them. Well, I never had them back in the day. I've had a SNES before, but I've sold it on because I had no nostalgia for it really. My pal had a SNES. I didn't know anybody that had a NES back in the day. So there's not really the kind of whole nostalgia factor there for me, which is the driver for most of this stuff that you see about me. But the more I looked at these things, I thought they're actually quite cool. I quite like them, and I like that they're representations of their original consoles, and the controllers are real. They're the proper controllers for the systems. And whilst I know that it's not ideal because you get a limited selection of games, and it's just an emulator in a fancy box, and it's, you know, all the kind of negative things that have been said about them, I think the positives of them are, you know, you can quickly hook these up to modern TVs and all that kind of stuff. You don't need a plethora of power adapters and other cables and things like that. And they're great for just plug and play, you know, the proper definition of plug and play. Plug it in, have a quick shot, save your game, which is something you can't do on the original consoles. You know, have a go, and that's you know, happy days. Same with the C64 Mini. Again, I never had a 64 back in the day. My pal did. I was an Amstrad guy. So the nostalgia isn't really there for it. But I like having it, and I like playing the games, and the fact you can add your own games via USB stick and stuff is great. I don't hack these machines. I don't see the point in it. You know, if you want to do that kind of thing, just get a Raspberry Pi. It's cheaper. I know people kind of do it as a technical exercise and stuff, but you know what? That's a whole other video. You know, it's to each their own. You know, if you want to get one of these and hack it, you crack on and enjoy yourself. I'm happy just to have them as is. But that kind of leads me on to what I was going to talk about. I have a MAME cabinet. I'm very lucky that I have a MAME cabinet. It's out in my garage at the moment. I don't have room for it in my new games room, but that will be an upcoming video. There's something quite exciting happening. But in fact, I might as well just tell you because it's kind of related to what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be building an arcade basically. I've got a double garage at my new house, and it's going to be getting not converted. The you know, the doors and all that are staying as is, and it's still going to be the kind of breeze block walls and all that kind of stuff. We're not turning it into a habitable room as such, but I've sealed the doors off as much as I can. Where we can still use them, but we're not going to be using them because there's not going to be any cars or anything in the garage. So my main cabinet is out there at the moment. I do have some issues with the garage, and there's kind of water getting in and things like that. So it's not 100% yet, but I'm working with the builders to get all that sorted out. Once we've got it totally watertight and you know, I'm happy with it, we'll get some heating in it, dry the place out because it's a little bit damp at the moment because it's just a bare garage. So there's some work to do to kind of get it to a point where I'd be happy leaving an arcade cabinet in there fully. My main cabinet just now is sitting on about 6 inches of polystyrene underneath it, and it's encased in polystyrene and cling film and all that kind of stuff to protect it from frost and dampness and all that kind of stuff, and just to keep it as safe as it possibly can be. So going forward, we're going to convert that into an arcade, and we're going to hopefully put a pool table and things like that in it. So I'm a very lucky guy that we've got the space to do that, and the potential. I'm very lucky that my wife is happy to let me do that as well. Thankfully, she likes not so much the arcade games, but she likes playing pool, and we've got a dartboard and things like that. And she likes some of the kind of older arcade games. She never really played arcades when she was younger, but some of the older games she quite likes having a shot of. So it's a nice shared room. It's not just kind of selfish me, I'm having a garage to turn into an arcade. You know, we will both use it. But at the moment, all that's in there is a lot of damp stuff and one arcade cabinet. So that's a future project, and there will be videos and things happening on that. And my original plan was that I was basically going to build more MAME cabinets. I'm going to build a virtual pinball machine and all that kind of stuff. I've went totally off topic. This isn't what we're going to talk about. But yeah, I was going to build arcade cabinets myself. Again, I'm quite lucky. I've got a decent enough kind of skill set with electronics and carpentry and stuff that I can do that. But I saw something, you know, a wee while ago now. They've been out for a while. There was a product that somebody had reviewed, quite negatively, I have to say, on YouTube. And then I thought, well, this is quite interesting. What is this? So I kind of had a little look about more YouTube videos and various websites and things. And what it is there's a company called Arcade 1UP. Now, before you start throwing things at this video, just bear with me. If you haven't seen these things, then basically what it is Arcade 1UP is a company in America. I've no idea who they actually are. I haven't researched that much yet. But they've basically brought out a range of sort of classic arcade machines. And what these are is I think they're about 3/4 size cabinets, so they stand about 4 foot tall. So they're not full size arcade cabinets. They've got 17-inch LCD monitors in them, and they stand about 4 foot tall. You can buy a riser box which gives it an extra foot in height to bring it to sort of normal arcade cabinet height. So they're a little bit more compact than kind of full size arcade cabs. But the cool thing that I like about them is that although they're all the same shape, so they're not the same shape as the actual kind of host games that they're trying to be, which will become clear in a little minute. They've got their own shape. It's not even, it's a little bit like, no, I was going to say the Street Fighter cab, that was a Z-back they called it, but yeah, it's a kind of generic arcade shape, but it looks nice. I think it looks alright for what it is. But the good thing about it is that essentially these are they're emulators. Now I don't know what's actually emulating. I've seen a teardown of them. I don't know if it's a Raspberry Pi that's in them or whatever. I'm not sure. But they come flat packed. You put them together yourself. Job's a good one. But what I like about them is that the control panels and all that, they've got full side art on them, and the marquees and all that kind of stuff are proper marquees. Control panel overlays look great. But most of the cabinets have at least 2 games in them, probably more. And I'll read out a little list of the bits I've got my iPad with me because I can't remember all the games that I've got. So we'll have a little look at them in a second. But the control panels and stuff are as accommodating as they can be for the games that's in them. So I think they look pretty good. Now they are made of MDF and stuff, you know. They retail in the US for about $300. Now, the components in them are not going to be brilliant for that. It's going to, you know, it's MDF probably. I haven't actually seen one in the flesh, but I would imagine that they're MDF, sort of 18mm MDF or something. So they're not going to be really chunky, heavy cabinets. But there's one guy did a video and he's bought all of them. I think at the time of kind of recording this, I think there's 5 out, maybe more. I had a quick look and I think there's another cabinet coming out. But there's at least kind of 5 of these things, and they are kind of emulating specific games or sets of games. And this guy's bought them all, and he has a mini sort of arcade in his house. Now these things I think are good because they are 3/4 size, so they're obviously a lot smaller than full-size cabs. Now most of us who like arcade cabinets, of course we would love full-size cabinets. I would love to have an array of original cabinets in the house, well, in the garage, arcade, whatever you want to call it. But for me it's just not practical. The cost of real arcade cabinets in the UK is astronomical. I went through a kind of fancy and thought I would love an asteroids cabinet. I love asteroids, right? I thought that would be great. And asteroids cabinets go for over £1,000. And not only that, vector monitors are notorious for needing fixed all the time. You've got all the original, because these are for like 1978 or whatever, you've got all the original hardware issues and things, so you need to start getting EEPROM burners and all sorts of stuff, and you know, learn how to read diagnostics to be able to maintain these things. So whilst it would be lovely to have the original cabinet, I just think for most of us who don't have the time to kind of pummel into that all the time, it's just not doable. So one of the things that attracted me to the Arcade 1-Up, and my plan when I was going to build these arcade cabinets is I had a plan similar to what Arcade 1-Up have done. So I was going to build, for example, an asteroids replica cabinet, and it was going to have all the kind of asteroids deluxe, all that kind of stuff in it, that used the sort of same layout, button layout as asteroids. Maybe put Space Invaders and things in it where you would have the left, right button and fire, that kind of stuff. Similarly, I was going to build a sort of centipede cabinet that had the trackball, and that would have missile command and things like that. So I had the kind of idea that Arcade 1-Up have done. They stole my idea. But yeah, so rather than having one cabinet that could emulate thousands of games, I was going to bring it down to a more specific range. So yeah, this guy's got the little arcade in his house, and it looks fantastic. Now it does look mad because they aren't full-size cabinets, like I say, but you sit down at these and you can play them and you get the experience, and the side art on them looks fantastic. If I haven't already, there'll be pictures of these floating about on this video as I'm kind of going, and you can have a look at some of them. But I think they look great for what they are. I'd like to see one in the flesh and have a go on it and see what it's like. But the thing that I was thinking about is that when I built my arcade cabinet, it started off with a two-player control panel. That's not entirely true. I started off with a one-player control panel, although it had two sticks on it because I like games like Karate Champ, Smash TV and things like that. So I had a one-player setup, so I had one stick, 6 buttons, a trackball, and another joystick for the twin stick games. And that was my first kind of setup. And it's got a 20, what have I got in it? It's a 19-inch monitor that's in my arcade cabinet. And I think all in, for all the bits and bobs, the wood, it's built out of 21mm MDF, so it's pretty heavy. And the paint and the T-moulding and all that kind of stuff. My arcade cabinet came in around about the £800 mark for all the stuff. Now these cabinets from Arcade 1-Up are $300. In the UK, of course, we are getting humped and they're 400 quid. So, you know, it's just, I don't know why we have to pay more for everything. It's a pain right in the arse. But you can get them a bit cheaper. So for averages, they're about £350 in the UK. Now for 350 quid, I probably couldn't afford, when you put into context what these cabinets have actually got. Now yes, they're smaller, right, so there's not that much wood in them. But there's a 17-inch monitor, your control panel, your controls, which are usually 2-player setups, depending on the game. But some of them have got spinners, there's a trackball, there's joysticks. You know, they've went quite well with the kind of control schemes. So you consider at least a 2-player set of controls, 2 joysticks, 12 buttons. It's going to cost you, plus the wire and loom and the USB interface and all that kind of stuff. That's 40, 50, 60 quid at least to start before you've done anything. A 17-inch monitor you'll get for 10 quid, but there's you know, £70–80. And then you've got your cost of the MDF, a couple of sheets of MDF, you're probably talking an extra £30. So you're at about about £150, something like that. Then you've got to cut it out. You've got to take the time to cut it out and do it properly. You've got to buy screws and all that kind of stuff. Then you've got to paint it, and then you've got to get the lamps and the perspex to put over the to make a bezel and all that kind of stuff, and your T-moulding, and then you've got to get full side art. As far as I'm aware, I wouldn't be able to build that, even a 3/4. I wouldn't basically be able to build an arcade 1-up cabinet with full side art and all that kind of stuff for the price that they're doing them, which is nuts. So I don't know how it works out. You know, I mean, to get full side art for these things and a nice marquee printed up and the control panel overlay and the kickboard graphics that they've got, you know, even to get a vinyl printer to do them, you're talking £100 and odd plus. So in that kind of context, the arcade 1-up cabs aren't too bad value. Now, the other argument about these things is MAME versus what they do. Again, I don't know what emulator they're actually using, if it's MAME or whatever, or what ROM sets are using, all that kind of stuff. But the thing is they make a very good point. If you've got a MAME cabinet, now I've got a stripped down, in my MAME cabinet I've got a stripped down version which has got about 350 games in it. And I've got light gun games, you know, Operation Wolf and all that kind of stuff, and I know that's not a light gun game before anybody gets pedantic. I play it with a light gun because that works. I know it's a joystick type positional game. But, you know, Lethal Enforcers and all that kind of stuff is on there. And I've got trackball games, and I've got twin stick games, and I've got driving games, and I've got all this stuff, blah blah blah. But I've stripped it down. Now I know people that have arcade cabinets with full ROM sets, you know, like 22,000 games on it, including Mahjong and all sorts of stupid crap that you're never actually going to play. But they have a completionist OCD thing. It's like, I've got an 8TB hard drive in there with everything that ever was released ever. And I've got PlayStation games on there, and I've got Super Nintendo games on a MAME cabinet. Why? I don't get that. I built an arcade cabinet to play arcade games, not to play SNES or PlayStation or whatever. But again, each to their own. Again, I'm digressing a little bit. But the thing is that if you had 22,000 games on an arcade cabinet, you would never play 99% of them. I don't play most of the 350 that I've got on there. Now I've stripped those right down to games that I love, or game series that I love, or games that have got a lot of nostalgia for me, all that kind of stuff. So it's a very defined list of games that I like. But even then, sometimes, you know, I used to go up to my arcade cabin, fire it up, and I'd be like, don't know what to play, and you'd scroll through the list, you know, and couldn't find anything that you wanted to play. And the beauty of the arcade 1-up cabs is that they are emulating between 2 and 5 games, I think, depending on which cabinet you get. So, for example, there's a Space Invaders cabinet, and all it's got on it is Space Invaders. Technically Space Invaders 2, because it's the colour version. I would have liked just the purest version of it, you know, just Space Invaders 1. Or maybe have Space Invaders 1 and 2 for it. But for whatever reason, it's done up as a Space Invaders 40th anniversary cabinet. And it looks pretty good. Side art on it looks fantastic. But it's only got Space Invaders, right? The game Space Invaders. Again, it's Space Invaders 2. But anyway. So you have essentially a dedicated Space Invaders cabinet. Now some people might say that's rubbish value, you know, why do that when you can get MAME with all the versions of Space Invaders you want and all that kind of stuff. But I would be probably more likely to play that than fire up my MAME cabinet and play Space Invader. Because it's got a two-way joystick and, or is it got, I'll need to double check, I can't remember if it's got a two-way joystick or just the buttons and the fire button. The original Space Invaders that I played had just a left and right button, it didn't have a joystick. But yeah, and some of the I have just got 2 games on them, or a couple of games, and I I would love to have an arcade like you did back in the day. Obviously, the original arcade cabinets back in the day, you didn't go in and have multiple choice games. Generally, you did later on, but generally speaking, you didn't have multiple choice games. You went up and you put your money into a specific game. So I quite like that kind of form factor, that aesthetic, where you have a cabinet that's just got one or two games on it, because I would be more likely to play that. So yeah, but anyway, like having said that, let's have a quick look. Sign in first. Come on, there we go. Right, so I've got the Arcade 1-Up site on my iPad here, and I'll put pictures of these on the screen as I'm talking about it, so you can see it. So the first cabinet is the Asteroids cabinet, and it looks cracking. I mean, you'll see it on screen, but it looks can't even talk. It looks really nice. So the Asteroids cabinet, it's got the button layout of Asteroids. The control panel looks like Asteroids, but it's got a spinner on the side of it because it plays Asteroids, Tempest, Major Havoc, and Lunar Lander. So they've kind of grouped together. Excuse me, they've grouped together vector games. Makes sense. Now, I have heard people absolutely destroy the spinner because, as far as I'm aware, and again I haven't played with one of these, the spinner isn't a free spin. So like on Tempest, I've got a spinner on my arcade cabinet, and if you spin it, it'll just rotate. I was going to say forever, that would be impossible. It rotates for a long time because it's weighted and it's free spinning. As far as I'm aware, the spinner on this, the videos I've seen, it sounds like it's a clicky spinner. So it's a positional thing as opposed to an actual free spinner. And people have been destroying it, saying it's horrible because if you spin it, it just goes click click, it doesn't do much. You have to actually kind of keep spinning it to get when you're playing Tempest, and you need that free flow in Tempest. You can't be sitting doing that and trying to get in. So I've heard people kind of destroying the cabinet, saying it's a lot of shit based on the fact that the spinner is a clicky thing. I have seen an update video where someone contacted Arcade 1-Up and they said that in the next revision of the cabinets they are going to address the spinner. So I don't know if they're going to make it a free-flowing spinner, which would obviously be a lot better. Now for me, I could take my spinner and retrofit it into that if I really wanted to. There's options. And I know you shouldn't really have to do that, but there's options to fix that yourself if you really wanted to. It's not enough to put you off buying a cabinet. Sorry about that, I just heard a weird noise. It was kids outside playing, I think. But anyway, yes, so this arcade cabinet, Asteroids, Tempest, Major Havoc and Lunar Lander, and I think it looks pretty sweet. And again, it's $299 or £350, I think it is in the UK. And I think it looks pretty good. The next one here, come on. So the one that everybody was going nuts for in the States is the Street Fighter cabinet. Now again, it looks really nice. You'll be able to see the bezels and all that kind of stuff. I think they've done a really good job with these. The fact that the bezels and all that look like they did. But they've done quite a good job with games that are multiple games because the bezels have kind of incorporated the multiple elements of it. So although it looks like the original, it's got bits of all the Street Fighters in it, or like there's a Walmart exclusive one that will come in a second. The Galaga cabinet has got one side is Galaxian and the other side of the bezel is Galaga. So I think they've done quite a nice job of kind of mixing these together. But anyway, the Street Fighter cabinet looks great. 2-player control panel with the 6 buttons per player. So it's got Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and Street Fighter 2 The New Challengers. So you're getting 3 Street Fighter games in one cabinet, and again, I think it looks really nice. That's pretty much what you would want in an arcade cabinet. I know purists might want later versions of Street Fighter, but that's more than enough Street Fighter for me. I'm shit at Street Fighter anyway. I'm a Tekken kind of guy. Next one, and this was an interesting one when I saw a video about this. They've released a Rampage cabinet, probably because of the movie that came out and all that kind of stuff. But they've done a 3-player control panel. They've done a 3-player cabinet for $300. Admittedly, it might be a little bit cramped if there's 3 guys, especially 3 guys my size, trying to play this thing. But you know, there are people that have tested this, and there are 3 adults sitting. If they're saying if you're standing playing it, it's a bit hard. But if you're sitting down playing it, you can have 3 adults sitting playing this, no bother. So they've got a nice 3-player control panel, and the games on this are Rampage, Gauntlet, Joust, and Defender. And Defender uses the kind of leftmost player's control panel. They've got it angled, so your thrust button and all that is kind of mapped pretty much like Defender would be. So you've got your buttons on the right hand side are your shoot and your smart bomb, I think it is. Whereas your thrust and reverse are kind of on your left hand, which is what it was like in the original cabinet. Which is pretty good. I think they've done a good job of trying to kind of map that. Now they've used the Rampage graphics for the whole thing. I maybe would have preferred a standalone Defender cabinet, a bit like the Asteroids. I think they would have made a lot more money doing that. But they've obviously kind of tacked it in for value. And Joust and all that kind of stuff. The Gauntlet version, as far as I'm aware, is a 2-player version. It's not the 4-player, so it's like the kind of, it's not a ROM hack, but it's a 2-player version of Joust anyway, of Gauntlet. So the next cabinet is a Walmart exclusive. Now, I would love to see this come over here because Galaxian is one of my favourite games. So it's a double cabinet with Galaga and Galaxian on it. 2-way stick, locked down to 2-way stick with your fire button. Nice and simple, looks really nice. I really hope that they release that over here. My only thing about it is that the side art is a little bit low. I would have liked it a little bit higher, but you know. Yeah, so Galaga and Galaxian. The next one is one, and I don't think this is getting released in the UK, at least yet. I'm hoping that they'll release a full range of these, because if they do, I might have to whip the credit card out and buy the lot of them. But the Centipede cabinet looks really nice. So Centipede, Crystal Castles, Missile Command, and Millipede. Classic trackball games. What more could you want in a cabinet, really? It looks fantastic. I've heard people saying that the trackball is a bit like the spinner. It's not free flowing, but it looks nice. It looks like the old white cue ball ones that you used to get. It's not translucent trackball that you get in quite a lot of cabinets now. It's the kind of old school looking, and I think it's a 3.5-inch trackball that's in it. The kind of mid size. It's not full size, but it looks really nice. And that could be good fun. And again, all classics. And they've got the monitor and vertical resolution and stuff, so it looks good. And there's a new cabinet that they've just announced. It's coming in spring 2019. And it's got Final Fight, Ghosts and Goblins, 1944, and Strider. That's a pretty good Capcom cabinet right there. Yeah, so it looks nice. I've not really seen the control panel. The thing's spinning around here. Let's have a look. So 2 players. Yeah, they'll need to have three buttons. No, two buttons. Yeah, you'll get away with 2 buttons. Maybe 3. Can't quite see. Anyway, that's quite a nice setup. I think that's the last one at the moment. Is that back to Asteroid? Yeah, so let's see, when you go back, come on. Yeah, so when you see them all set together, I'll put this up on screen actually. When you see them all set together, it looks pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good arcade right there. There's a few titles, of course, that I would personally love. You're never going to be able to satisfy everybody with these things, but that's a pretty good selection of games. If you had those as standalone cabinets, you would have an impressive arcade collection. I'd love to see a vertical shooter like Commando series, something like that. Commando Mercs, maybe something like that, because I love Commando. But yeah, something like that would be really good. So yeah, so the arcade 1-up cabinets, very much divided opinion on Tinterwebs. If you watch any of the YouTube kind of reviews of these things. Some people love them for the things I've spoken about before, about the kind of smaller form factor. You can fit more in your house if you don't have space and all that kind of stuff, and the price point. Some people have ripped them to bits because they're smaller, they're cheaply built and all that kind of stuff, and they're LCDs and blah blah blah, all the negative people. But if you look at these things for what they are, the ability to play these games in the form factor they were designed for, you're getting that arcade experience. It looks the part, it sounds the part, and yeah, they're not that expensive considering. Now, of course, you can buy arcade cabinets, especially if you're in the US. You seem to be able to get cabinets over there for like $50. You know, it's like, oh, I found this arcade cabinet on Craigslist and it was $75, and you know, turns out it's I don't know, a Pac-Man or whatever. Oh, that's one thing actually that's not listed there. I don't know why. I don't know why they actually don't have that. The Space Invaders cabinet that I spoke about is, I don't know if that's a UK exclusive. They don't have that listed there. And also there's a Pac-Man cabinet which has got Pac-Man and Pac-Man Plus, I think it is. Now I don't know if that's exclusive to Target or something like that, one of these American stores. But there is a Pac-Man which looks beautiful. It's, you know, all yellow and all that kind of stuff. It's a reproduction. It looks excuse me, looks cracking. But yeah, I've completely lost the track of what the hell I was talking about. I think these things are pretty good, and I have to say, if the range gets released over here, if you could afford it, to be able to buy a complete arcade for not that much money, for essentially the price of two, that's what I was slaving about, the price of cabinets. If you could buy an entire arcade for the price of essentially 2 good cabinets in the UK, you know, you could buy all of them for less than £2,000, which is a lot of money. I get that. It's £2,000 is a lot of money. But if you tried to buy an Asteroids and a Centipede cabinet in the UK, you would be over £2,000. If you try to buy that if you try to buy that range of games, you'd be tens of thousands of pounds. It would be ludicrous. So yeah, so you could try and buy cabinets and do them up, or buy JAMA cabs and buy the boards and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But like I mentioned earlier, you're going to have to start to learn about electronics and all that kind of stuff if you just want to be able to sit and play these games in the arcade experience. I think this is a great way to kind of start your collection. Just like the C64 Mini. You know, the C64 Mini is not perfect. You can't type on the keyboard and all that kind of stuff. But you can fire it up and play the games using a joystick and get that nostalgia feeling. And that's what, to me, that's what these games are about. You know, they are not perfect. But if they released full-size Asteroids cabinets with a bigger monitor and all that kind of stuff, the price point is going to go up. Of course it is. You know, and it would be $500-600 maybe. And then people, of course, would be saying, well, for $600, I can probably buy an Asteroids, maybe a little bit beat up, but I could buy a real Asteroids and do it up. So I can see why they've went for the form factor they have, based on rather than versus full size cabinets. So I think it's a nice little sweet spot for the arcade experience. Pretty decent price point, and yeah, I'm intrigued. And usually when I get kind of bitten by the bug of these things, it doesn't end well. It's usually expensive. But yeah, if I could buy that range plus a Pac-Man and Space Invaders, that could be my arcade sorted. That would be pretty sweet, I think. If you had that, maybe a wee pinball machine in the corner, and your you know, a dartboard and a pool table and things like that. That's a pretty sweet arcade setup in my eyes. Anyway, enough of that for now. You know, I need to win the lottery at this rate. But what do you guys think of the arcade one-up cabinets? Is it something you would be interested in if you had the space? You know, have a hypothetical. If you have the space, would you buy some? If you had the space and the money. There's a lot of hypotheticals in here. If you had the space and the money, would you buy these? if you had £2,000, if you won £2,000 on the lottery, and you had the space for them, would you buy a suite of arcade one-up cabinets, or would you buy real arcade cabinets? You know, would you buy a real Asteroids? A good refurbished one is going to cost you about £1,200 upwards. So what would you prefer to have? Would you prefer the pure option, or would you prefer an instant arcade? Yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think they're a good idea? Do you think it's just cheap tat and rubbish and you wouldn't give it the time of day? Do you think you could build better yourself for the budget? You know, if you had £300 or £350, do you think you could build a better cabinet than that for £350? I don't think I could, and I'm pretty good at building stuff with electronics and that kind of thing. I could build the cabinet, no problem. I don't think I could build what they're offering for £350, which is quite weird. But anyway, let me know what you think. Are you interested in these kind of things? Yeah, just give me your opinions, give me some feedback, let me know what you think about it. And yeah, usual spiel: like, comment, subscribe, shout for the rooftops, share these videos, tell your friends, let's have a party. And yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you next time.